I've got the looks and the charm of an old movie star. Cary Grant, if you will, so I find it bizarre that this girl should refuse to step into my car. She must be shy, she'll come around, it's just a matter of time. Aurora, Aurora.
Hey there, Screen Beans, and welcome to Screen Snark, a podcast that celebrates all of the shows that are in our eyes, on our minds, and in our hearts. I am Rachel Quirky Shank.
And I am at AK Stormageddon.
And I was extra perky on that one.
That's
I'm
good.
I'm having a weird week this week. Like, I think isolation is finally getting to me, and I can't remember what stuff is called. It's weird.
Yeah,
How are you doing, Matt?
That's called your mid-30s. So, you know, you just
I'm not
experiencing
in my mid-30s
I know.
yet. I haven't hit the mid yet.
I know. You're still in your early 30s.
Does the mid come earlier in social distancing? Is that what happens?
I think it just gives the illusion of, because, you know.
Oh, man. So
Yeah.
we'll see if I can remember what
Exactly. Exactly.
television show or movie I watched this week.
I believe in you. I have faith
thank
in
you.
you that you'll be able
Thank
to
you.
discuss something by the time we get to you.
Matt, has anybody ever told you that you're the tiny potato meme as a person?
No, that is a first, but I'll take it.
You are, because like you always believe in us, all of
I do.
us. Like,
Somebody's gotta.
You're adorable and you're positive, and you say we can do the thing. Anyway, you know what other thing we can do?
Nice, smooth.
Thank you. The smoothest transition of all time. We
Like
can
water.
introduce our guest. Like,
We could.
like water off a duck. That's how that segue went. Ooh, boy. Yikes.
Okay.
So I am so excited and so delighted and so honored to add to our ranks of Screen Snark guests. Someone who came into my life as sort of like a mysterious name that I had no idea, and turns out is a beautiful soul with a beautiful voice. And I'm just so delighted and so honored to have them here. Welcome to the show, Dan Purcell. Yes, that Dan Purcell. I know. I'm also fucking excited about it, listener. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Hi. Thank you guys so much for having me on. I really appreciate.
Thank you for joining
Appreciate the
us.
invite.
Of course.
Yeah, for sure. We're very excited to have you on. It's funny, the cross-section of Dan Purcell on the internet, just between Rachel and then CJ and Micah, who do a podcast that both Rachel and I have been on, and you've been on, and then, of course, the incredible Patrick H. Willems, who has affected all our lives. And so it's just...
Yes.
It's very funny and who is also a previous guest of this podcast. It's fun to have those things cross their streams. Rachel. Clearly, I'm having a week also.
There's that. There's
It's a
those
new
things,
moon. It's
and
fine.
There's that. There's all those things, and then also Scott and Patrick have been on the film rescue show.
Yeah.
So I like to call this the Willomatic Arlverse.
Whoa.
I like that. Ooh, that's good.
That makes sense. I've
Yeah.
also been on the film rescue show.
I have not.
Oh,
yet.
you have.
Yeah, I did. I did. What movie did it with them? World War Z. I don't know if it's out yet. I don't know. Is it? I think it is. We did
it
that
might
one.
Be. Yeah, I think it might be. Yes.
Yeah.
But
No.
yeah,
Patrick
I think
Willems.
In terms of the podcast world, I'm occasionally a guest on things, but I'm more of like a watcher. I'll just comment on things.
That's okay.
Hey,
we
that's
need
an
those folks
important
too.
element.
Yeah.
Also, I'd like to step back a couple moments in this discussion already. Hi, we're like 4 minutes in, maybe less. I'm already derailing the damn show. I think the cross section of Dan Purcell is a great fucking album name.
Yes, that is a good CD.
Like,
That
that's
is a good
very
album.
good.
Like
Like-
an 8-track, like introspective album. Like
Yeah, very, very, like, maybe even like a concept album that has like a real deep dive into like what makes Dan Purcell, like, I'd love it. You can have that
it's not
for
on the
free.
same level. It's not on the same level, but right for some reason it reminds me of one, Mariah Carey's "The Emancipation of Mimi,"
Ooh,
and two,
yeah.
Lauryn Hill's "The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill."
Yes.
Nice, yeah.
Album
Or
names
what is
with
it?
album names with the artist name in it are often very good.
Yeah. Isn't there the Kanye one? What is it?
Life of
what is it?
Pablo.
The Life of
The Life of
Pablo.
Pablo.
Yeah.
'Cause
The
I
cross
guess
section
his
of Dan
name is
Purcell.
The cross section Dan Purcell. You might be
very
able to
good.
find. We'll get into the Dan Purcell interview port, but
Yeah.
you do have music coming out, so maybe that'll play into it.
do.
Maybe you've got a
Yeah,
future
so-
album title on your hands.
Yeah. So stick around, listener,
maybe.
or skip to the end. I don't know how you listen to podcasts anymore. In the apocalypse, it's fine. Hey, Matt,
Yes.
what have you been watching?
Oh, thank
I have
God.
no segue. It's fine.
Thank you for asking, Rachel.
You're welcome. I had to get
we-
us on track somehow. I've already ruined this show.
No, please. The only reason people listen is because of you. I am not
Because
the
I
cult of
ruin it?
personality. Well, maybe. I mean, ruin is a strong word. So I've watched a bunch of different things over the past week. This is my honorable mention, which we've been doing lately. I started my community rewatch after watching
Very good.
the live script read through of the episode where Pierce passes away.
Yes. Cooperative polygraphy.
Yes. And so that
Yes.
live reading with our very own favorite Mandalorian as filling in for the original role of the
Yes.
lawyer, which I love because every time anyone said the word man in the script, then Dan Harmon would go DeLorean.
DeLorean. Yeah. I will
Finish
say
it.
that nothing will be so great to me than watching Pedro Pascal, the man who had his head squished real bad in Game of Thrones,
Yes.
lose his mind over having to say, "Here's your sperm." It's
Yeah.
great.
It was very
great.
good. It was so
It
good
is.
watching them break. It was
Yeah.
amazing. But anyway, so I started my community rewatch. I'm still in season 1. I've been taking my time with it, but it's been a blast.
Very cool.
But of course, I feel like maybe when I finish my rewatch, we'll bring a guest on and do like a community retrospective. I think that might be fun.
Ooh, good. Because this is a community stand podcast for
It
sure.
is.
Yeah.
But that said,
is.
the show that I watched to completion, that I was very excited to finish, was She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, which
The
is
Princesses
a
of
DreamWorks series that's on Netflix. It got, what was this, the 4th season or the 5th season was the final season? I've lost track.
I think
of
this
how
was
many
the
se-
5th season. It's
fifth
hard
season.
with binging. Like, how many
Yeah.
seasons is what? You know, like how long have we
They
waited
did
for
5
this?
seasons of She-Ra?
Yeah.
Oh, and it's so good,
It's
my
so good.
friend.
Yeah.
Oh, I have the theme song in my head now. We're on the edge of greatness, turning darkness to light. Ugh, so good. I love that
and
show.
s-
I
and so-
also finished that show, so
Yeah, I finished watching it. I think it was yesterday or the day before. It all bleeds together. It was one
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
of the handful of shows that my spouse and I have been recently watching together, and we've been
Very
watching it
nice.
since the first episode, and it was great. I won't spoil anything for those who haven't seen it, but what I will say is that if you've enjoyed the series and you're worried about them wrapping it up or sticking the landing, they absolutely stick the landing. They absolutely wrap it up in a way that feels satisfying, and also they raise the stakes in the final season in a satisfying
yes.
way,
Yes.
which I
agreed.
really appreciated, because at first, like, it just, a lot of these kinds of action shows of any kind, any cartoon with action and adventure, can kind of skew towards a lot of tropey things, and some of the earlier seasons even had a handful of tropey moments, but the final 2 seasons for sure at least were almost flawless, and the final season
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, this was like the Gabby Douglas Olympic dismount of show endings.
Yeah. Oh, just buckle up. The references only get better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really love the way this show is animated. I love the music in it. I love the voice acting. I love the character development. Also, I will say this is the only show I've ever seen redeem or complete the story of literally every character in a
Yes.
perfect way. Like I've never seen another cartoon or even live action show know its character characters and its audience so well that it's able to just come full circle on everything without it feeling predictable or cheesy at any point.
Very cool.
I would agree, but I would also go back and reference our entire Steven Universe Future discussion, and I will say Steven Universe Future also does that.
Yes.
I will say with this does it without actually needing to create a whole new like time jump in the way that the Future has to, you know, to sort of like give some distance between like the events. I think this one is like very present in its story and what it's doing, and it finds a way to bring it all to an ending in this very like high stakes way. I completely agree.
There's also never been another show that I've watched, animated show, where I've been literally attracted to every character on screen, just about.
They're also beautiful.
Of the main
all
cast,
of them.
especially. Like, Steven
I
Universe.
mean, all of them.
Like, in Steven Universe, the gems, you know, everyone has their favorite gem that they're attracted to, or maybe non-gem character. I won't judge.
Yeah.
But
I see you out there, you Mayor Dewey babies.
hey, Mayor Dewey's pretty great. Even when he wasn't mayor, he was still kind of great in the worst way. But
Shout out to a Mayor Dewey stan.
Exactly. But I think my like if I could give an honorable mention to anyone in the series, it would be, and her name escapes me, but the voice actress who plays Scorpia, who's also in Superstore. She put in legwork as that character that I like. Besides the main four, I would say she shines in a way that I didn't even imagine the character would, because the character is fairly one-dimensional in the beginning, as well as the others were. That was the point, right? They were kind of caricatures that broke out of this kind of loop and grew. But like I feel like Scorpia had the most growth on a lot of different levels, and is just one of my favorite characters, and also a woman that I would let tell me what to do all the time, even though she wouldn't, because she's kind and passive.
Yeah, squish me. You'd have to be like Scorpia, will you squish me? And she'd be like, what? It's like, well, please just squish me. And she'd be like, okay. I don't want to hurt you, but okay. No, and what I appreciate a lot about Scorpia is, like, you often see the very like tortured antagonist. You have that a lot in a character like Catra, you know, like she's suffered loss, she's hurting, like a lot of her actions come from her hurt and her abandonment issues. But then you have a character like Scorpia who is on the quote unquote like wrong side. I mean, obviously the wrong side, because like Hordak's a real bad fascist dude, but like you sort of see how you can be on the wrong side of something but have a lot of heart and be a good person, you know, because I never ever doubted for a second that Scorpia was a good person. Like she always had so much heart and so much love, you know, and I think it really speaks a lot to the nuance of sort of like brainwashing or conquest, where you kind of like allow like ideals to colonize your brain, and like they don't really ruin who you are as a person. And I think it really speaks to the idea of the redemptive qualities of just like listening to someone, you know, like that this is back in like what, season 1, season 2 with the princess prom, but like the discussion of like why Scorpia's family joined the Horde, where it's just like, yeah, everybody thought we were weird because I got this big scorpion tail and these claws, you know, like really speaks to the flaws on both sides, you know, like you can shun someone because you don't really like their aesthetic, you know, how does that make you the good team? And, you know, the sort of like blending and the blurring of lines and like the gray areas in the discussion, like, yes, the evil Horde is evil, but like not everybody in the evil Horde is evil, you know. It kind of presents that same interesting discussion that's brought up in that Star Wars that we don't talk about, but where like the stormtroopers are not clones anymore. They're like brainwashed children, you know, and you sort of see that with the Horde and with Adora and with Catra and the crew, where they're just kind of like these brainwashed child soldiers. Like, I don't want to hurt them. They don't know any better, you know?
Yeah. And I do want to shout out the actress is Lauren Ash.
Thank you, Lauren
that's her
Ash.
name.
Very good.
But
Also, shout out to the voice actress of Ketra, who is Stevani in Steven Universe.
Yes, same voice actress.
Same.
But it's funny you bring up Star Wars because actually, what I think the reason I identify with Scorpio the most is the good person in a bad situation. In the Star Wars game, The Old Republic, which was their MMO that they did, you could play on the light side or the dark side, but or you could play for the Horde of the Empire or the Rebels, although they had different names back then. But you also could be light or dark side regardless, and that was like you could be a good person in a bad place or a bad person in a good place. And I think it's important when shows explore that instead of just all bad guys are evil and they're bad. I mean, that has its place in narrative too, but it's more interesting when all sides are complicated, not just the good guys or the bad guys.
Yeah, you know, like you also encounter a character like Wrong Hordak.
Yeah.
You know, like another example of being sort of trapped in your system where you don't know anything else because it's all you've been given, you know, like the instant that you're presented with another alternative, you know, like the loving arms of a Perfuma, or you know, even Entrapta in those moments of just like, hi, I would like to respect you as you and not ask you to fight or do harm, like join us, and how quickly like that change can occur. Like, I love this show though. Also, it's real gay.
It's really gay. It could be gayer
real gay.
because everything could be gayer.
Could be gayer, for sure, but like real gay.
Yeah.
Like real gay.
Yeah. It's one of, you know, I'm just really grateful of all the really great animated shows that we've gotten over the last decade or so, and She-Ra affected me in a way I didn't think it would, just because like I grew up watching He-Man and She-Ra, but those shows, like revisiting them now, they are not great. They are
good.
They're
very bad.
But I mean, it's all nostalgia, right? Which is a lot of our old cartoons were really cheesy, but we love them.
Yeah, designed to sell toys to children because President Reagan removed restrictions about advertising to children, very susceptible children.
Yes. And
Don't forget.
And that's the story of capitalism. Oh.
Pretty much.
Da, da, da.
But that said, like I went into the show just being like, all right, well, it's got a pedigree and it's DreamWorks and this creator has done some cool stuff. Like, I've heard good things. Let's give it a shot. And I got wrapped up in it really quick. And I think it's because I think what She-Ra's link is to other shows that we've praised on this podcast, like Steven Universe and Gravity Falls and Adventure Time, is that all of these shows, even at their wackiest, still has a realness to life and day-to-day life and an emotional spectrum that it makes them way more easy to identify with than other fantastical cartoons that have their place. But I think the heart of those kinds of shows that we've been getting in the last decade, like She-Ra, is what, at least for me as a viewer, pulls me in more than the fantasy and the spectacle, as much as I love that too. So I'm really glad that I'm not glad it ended, but I'm glad it ended the way it did. I think they did a great job, and while I would have gladly watched it forever, they absolutely stuck the landing, and I'm super excited with this show as a complete work, and we'll probably rewatch it at some point.
I will say my one sorrow about this particular run of She-Ra is we didn't get to see Noelle Stevenson's like interpretation of He-Man, and that's kind of all I want. You know, like I think that the designs of these characters are so wonderful and lively, and despite what the haters are saying about this animation style, I think it's so soft and vibrant and lovely, and I would love, like, considering even just like looking at a character like Bo from the original and how Bo looks now in this interpretation, like how like beautiful and like snuggly would He-Man have looked in this universe, you know? Like, how much would you just want to have been like, I just want like He-Man to like make me pasta and tell me everything's gonna be okay, you know, like
Right. Well,
I would have loved that.
Well, what I'm hoping for is we are getting apparently 2 different He-Man series for Netflix. One that's a
Yes.
continuation and a wrap-up of the old original series, which is the one being done by Kevin Smith, which will be interesting.
Yes.
I'm interested to see how they revisit that and improve it. But also we're getting a from the start new He-Man series. And what I'm hoping is when the from the start from scratch new He-Man series happens, that even if Noel Stevens isn't working on it, that maybe we'll get the voice actress who plays Adora guest on that show as Adora in that universe or something, like some kind of cool Netflixy crossover, which is not impossible.
Not impossible. No. Also, that Kevin Smith version, Orko, is voiced by a friend of this podcast, Griffin Newman.
Oh, that's amazing.
He doesn't know he's friend of this podcast yet.
He will
but
be.
he is. Don't worry about it.
We'll have him on.
Get it. I'll get him. I'm not even worried. Yeah. We're all
excited.
trapped
with us this entire
inside.
The whole time he had no idea.
The whole time there was the fifth element of this podcast was Griffin Newman not knowing that he loves this podcast yet.
Exactly.
Anyway, I feel good about this. Matt, would you like to sum up She-Ra and the Princesses of Power in 3 words?
I would.
Or would you like to, okay, or do you have something else to add?
No, I'm done with my thoughts. I'm trying
Cool.
to gently avoid spoilers as much as possible since I know folks are still getting through it, and like the big reveals are not worth.
Start it.
Yeah, the big reveals also aren't worth ruining because they're small moments that are a big impact if you've watched the whole show. That's all I'll say about it. So, wrapping up She-Ra and the Princesses of Power in 3 words. Heart, power, gay.
I'll take it, even though power is in the title, but I get it. It's a long title.
It's in the subtitle. The title is She-Ra. And the
Princesses
of Power.
It's fine. Well, then
I'll give an alternate.
emphasize
I'll give it an alternate 3-word review as well. Gay,
You don't have to,
gay,
it's fine.
gay.
Gay. It's so gay. Wow,
gay.
it's gay. Whew. Boy, it's gay.
Anyway.
Yay, it's gay. It's very gay. Those are all my 3-word reviews of She-Ra. And
The Princesses
in
of
case,
Power.
if you don't write all of those down in the Discord, I will be so mad at you.
So mad.
So mad.
Take notes.
Take notes, guys.
notes. All right. Well,
cool.
Rachel, since I'm guessing you haven't brought us She-Ra, though you had a lot to say about it. What is the show that you have brought us?
Cool.
Or movie.
So yeah, but you know the whole thing. I would like to give my honorable mention this time.
Sure.
I hope you're fucking ready for this, guys. I recently watched John Oliver talk about sports in coronavirus, and he mentioned a new sport. Well, not a new sport. A sport that's existed. It's new to me. Called Gels Marble Runs, and it is now my new obsession. I know it's not like a movie or a television show, but I just really need to get the word out that Gels Marble Runs is amazing. It's literally what it sounds like. It's marbles being rolled in different ways, and the marbles are teams. So there's like one that's like green, and they're called the Limers, and there's one that's blue, and they're called the Cobalts. And my favorite team is sort of like that, like cool, like gray marble with like the white stripe in it, and they're called the Hazers, and they're perfect, and I will die for them.
I
Do not
cannot
think for a
believe-
second
I
that I
cannot
will.
believe that you already have a favorite team.
Yes,
I
the
can.
Hazers.
Is there an individual called Gel that's involved in this?
Yes, the like the creator and the creator's wife. So it's Gel Baker and Dion Baker
Wow.
created this
I was
thing.
gonna say, I was
Serves
like,
you right, Dan. You tried to make a
Yeah.
joke,
There
and
needs
Rachel's
to
like,
be-
well,
did.
you
You
know
tried
why.
so hard.
This makes it all the more better. This makes it all the more better
Yeah.
because I really hope there ends up becoming like this expanded story that's not dissimilar to Yu-Gi-Oh, where the creator of the game brings all of the best of the best to an island to compete against him, and the prize is like there's like a cash prize money, and then there's this kid that comes in with an ancient Egyptian relic and is like, I have the power to win all the marble games.
Oh no, there's like no people in this. Like Joe's Marble Run is completely a marble only affair. Like I think I've seen a Cuban hand once in watching all of the coverage from 2017, 2018, and 2019. So I'm in. Wow. I'm in on this. It's amazing, and the commentator Greg Woods is perfect. Like he's offering commentary exactly like you would hear in an Olympic event, but like the events are like the 5-meter dash, and it's the marbles rolling down an incline to a finish line, or a long run in like the sand or the snow, and it's perfect, and I love it, and it's my new favorite sport. But that's not what I brought today.
Okay. Well, what did you
anyway, sometimes I just gotta take people to church about marble sports, about marble sports on YouTube. It's not marble games. This is marble sports.
Okay,
this is
sorry.
important.
I'm sorry.
This matters. This
I'm
is
so
very
sorry.
This is my whole life now. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm very
Noted.
excited. They're starting new stuff in like June, so I'm hype. I'm hype as fuck about it. Anyway, I don't like sports, but I love this sport. But the piece that I brought is actually it's kind of a funny story. I started an initiative at my normal person job where I am hosting movie nights for my coworkers, over our various like video chats and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And very luckily, one of my favorite movies growing up is on Netflix, and that is Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I don't want to be this person who says this phrase, but here I go, being this person who says this phrase. They don't make them like they used to. I can't believe it. I was sitting watching this movie, sort of in this weird space where it's sort of a work function, but not so much that like I'm really being watched or anything. But like there's other people in the video chat, enjoying this movie too, and we weren't really talking or anything or like adding to the conversation, mostly because someone in the group, this was their first viewing, and far be it from me to like talk about the Nazi monkey, before you find out that this monkey is a Nazi monkey. Spoilers for Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark from 1981, by the way. So we just sort of like sat and we watched it all together, and there were just moments where I was taken aback by the beauty of the fight choreography and the joy of this just adventure film. Like I've been kind of indulging in adventure films for a while, like the Brendan Fraser Mummy and The Mask of Zorro, these very like effervescent like adventure films where the stakes aren't the highest in the world. It's not like the wheel of fate is turning and you have to stop it. It's just like, hey, these Nazis, they're gonna open the Ark of the Covenant, and that's not gonna be good. Like that's probably gonna be a bad time for us here. Okay. And just getting to watch this like playful universe that's that's global but not universal, like it's not Thanos trying to nab all these stones and like snap the world out of existence or whatever. But like everyone is really grounded and interesting. Like you're dealing with a spurned lover who's stranded in Nepal, and like obviously the two mains like carry a torch for each other, but like neither of them is gonna be open enough to admit it, you know. And then you got like Sala, who's just John Rhys Davies, just like doing such
Having a good time.
work. What?
Having a good time.
Oh,
He's just having a
jeez,
good
just
time.
so good. Just the he like reaches up and he like grabs the date out of the air, and he's just like, dates, very dangerous.
Yep.
And I'm just like, I love it. It's so good. Like, it's so
Yeah.
this movie is so quotable, and it's so fun from beginning to end. You know, like the cold open, like fucking what's his name? Doc Ock. Come on. Alfred Molina, a very
Yeah.
young Alfred Molina, just
Yep.
like crushing it. There's not a
Oh, I
moment in
forgot
this
that he's
movie
yeah, I forgot
that I am not wrapped, that I am not so into it. And it's one of those for me, it's one of those watches of rediscovery where you're just like going along, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, now this is gonna, oh, and then this is gonna, and then there's gonna be like the shell game with the baskets, and it's just, it's so fun. And I wish I could go back and be someone who watches it for the first time, because it's so good. It's such craftsmanship. You know, I love this movie, and it's so fun. And the way it
Yeah.
just, even in that first cold open, from like, you don't see Indy's face for a lot of it, and then like he turns into the light, he's like such a badass, like whatever, he's knocking the tarantulas off of Alfred Molina's character, whose name I can't remember, and it's just like, oh, this guy, he's baller. Like, he's not scared of anything. And like he's running from the tribesmen. They were like shooting shit at him, and you're like, oh, he's so badass. Oh, this guy is so badass. Then he gets in the cockpit of the goddamn plane, and there's like one little snake there. It's like one adorable snake, and he's like, I'm dying. This is the worst thing. It's perfect. It's a perfect moment of just bringing forth the humanity of this almost like superhuman character who's just like able to like know traps and like run from rocks. And then like how that moment of like, I hate snakes, I hate them so much, they make me so scared, I'm like crying like a baby in this cockpit after everything else that's happened, which I did not care about, and it comes back again. You know, I think it's one of those beautiful moments of setup and payoff. And I think this movie does that again and again and again and again, whether it's the snakes or like Marion's drinking, how that really comes back to play, where you see her as like this really bold, strong, assertive figure in Nepal, trying to pull that same stunt in a new place and like not really being able to, but like still holding on to like her need to get out. I just love this. I think every moment of this movie is a treasure. Pun intended. It belongs in a museum. Anyway, sorry I got on my soapbox and took everybody to church about Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. I could do it forever.
I was gonna say, I think I agree. I personally, I think of the three, because there are only three. There is no fourth one.
There are only three.
There are only three. Of the three, I actually like Last Crusade a little bit more because of the Sean Connery of it all.
Yeah, Last
And
Crusade's great.
I think the dad stuff gets to me. Like, no matter what, I'll always have like the parent stuff is what's gonna put it over the top in terms of like, oh yeah, this is my shit.
Oh, for sure. To be honest, as I was a younger person, Temple of Doom was always my favorite. I'm not sure why it was. I think it's because it has a musical number, and like tiny baby Rachel was just like, I love musical numbers. Are you kidding me? Like, what's up? But I think now that I've grown and I've gotten older, I'm very excited to watch the other two, because there are only two more after Raiders, obviously.
Very obviously.
Just to see how they sort of land, because I also think that Crusade is just brilliant. Just another like one for the annals of history to be like, ah, yes, this is so fun and so good. I haven't watched Crusade in a while, so I'm looking forward to getting to it now, knowing that these 3 beautiful movies, and there are only 3, are on Netflix. I think. Go ahead, Matt.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say it's been like I'm in the same boat. I haven't watched any of those 3 movies, the only 3 that exist, in a long time. In fact, I can't even remember which of the 3 movies has the sword fight.
With the gun.
With the gun.
Yeah, that's the first one, and
that
then
is
they
the
sort
first
of
one,
like
okay.
they call back to it in Temple of Doom, which is weird because technically Temple of Doom takes place chronologically before Raiders, even though like it was filmed after. Because
well, then maybe that one's really a callback to the other one.
No, because Harrison, there have been entire think pieces about how weird the callback from Temple of Doom is to Raiders when their actual like story beats for like Indiana Jones experiencing them as a character are in the reverse. So it's weird that Indiana Jones does the same bit in Temple that he does in Raiders, but he does like this weird shit-eating grin, like he knows that he's in a movie and he knows that you're watching his movie and he's like,
fine.
Here I am again. I have no gun.
It's fine. It's all
what
fine.
are you going to do?
It's all fine. But so like I
entire think pieces about this whole bit.
I'm sure they're lovely.
They're probably not.
But yeah, like I've always liked Harrison Ford. Obviously, he's always been charming, especially in that era, right? Like in the Star Wars and the Indiana Jones era. Like he did a lot of really great stuff. But like I don't have a strong memory for those movies beat by beat. Like I remember scenes of each movie for sure and like moments, but like the whole beat for beat movies have fallen out of my head. So I'm due for a rewatch of them myself, and hearing your thoughts on Raiders makes me excited to revisit it. The 3 movies, the only 3 movies that exist, because although movies that fail us in more recent times aren't as bad sometimes if you separate them from the canon they're within. There were only 3 Indiana Jones movies, so we don't have to worry about doing that with Indiana Jones. But yeah, I'm excited. I didn't know they were on Netflix, so I'm actually, you telling me about this makes me really excited to revisit those movies, because like they're of an age also. And I think Patrick even touched on this when talking about Mask of Zorro on a podcast that's not this one, is that there's something about a well-crafted action movie that's also fun that we've lost a little bit. I feel like the Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr. tried to recapture that a little bit, and it did to a certain degree. It wasn't as smart, I don't think, maybe, but I still enjoyed those movies on a similar level of like excitement and all of that.
Yeah.
But I feel like even those kinds of event movies are less and less. Like the Sherlock movies were of a time, but Robert Downey Jr. would never do a movie like that now, I don't think. You know, and even actually speaking about Robert Downey Jr., like Doolittle was, I think, supposed to try and capture that again, right? Like it's supposed to take us back into the Disney, like those kinds of like Pirates of the Caribbean and those kinds of fun adventure movies, which those movies also tried to recapture. And I would even dare say the first couple did capture that. I think those kinds of action movies become less and less as the Marvel and DC's gain steam, because they're trying to do something different intentionally. They're not trying to be those kinds of movies, and it's a bummer because there were just as many blockbusters that were those kinds of movies before we started getting the pop culture spectacles. Even though it's kind of ironic because Indiana Jones is a pop culture spectacle now, even though it wasn't. at the time.
But it wasn't a monoculture in the same way that we live in like the MCU or the like it's not called the DC extended universe, it's called something stupid. But like, you know, we sort of have these like tentpole franchises that dominate a lot of the discussion now. Whereas like Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, like nobody knew what it was. You know, it happened, it was done, and then they were like, oh, I guess we'll do another one. That went well. And they're like, yeah, let's do another one. That's cool. And they're like, that one's all right. We'll do a third one, I guess. We'll do a third one. And they're like, yeah, let's do a third one. And it's really fun. You know, it's just kind of this weird idea that we have now that like things have to keep going, and to sort of like touch back on even the discussion we just had about She-Ra, where we're like, I'm sad that it's over, but I'm glad that it ended this way. Like even then we're kind of like clinging to this, like wanting something to be with us and to be a status quo, like this touchstone that we have, you know. And I think 2020 has been a really good example in endings, at least for me and what I've been watching. And I know this has nothing to do with Raiders, but I think it's very valid. You know, like The Good Place ended, and She-Ra ended, and Steven Universe ended. You know, so many of these things, like even in its weird way, like last year, you know, Star Wars ended, and like we have all of these endings, and that's kind of very exciting, you know. Like I'm so glad that stuff is over, you know. It's like I think we're looking at this as sort of like the pop culture tarot card of death. You know, like so many people are interpreting like the ending of things as like this super negative, like, well, what do we do now? What do we look forward to? What is going to happen? You know, but for me, I perceive that as like the tarot card of death, where it's not necessarily the ending of things, but like the beginning of things and a moving into a new age.
I think resolution is really important, and I think like even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. ending this year, like I've watched that show since day one, and it's gone through ups and downs, and it's not always been great, but I really like it, and I'm excited that it's ending by revisiting Agent Carter, which is one of the best things Marvel has ever done. I will stand by that. That show was phenomenal, and so like even using the end, which ended prematurely, using the end of this show to wrap up that show too, which it looks like they're going to do to some degree, is really great. And yeah, I agree. I think that 2020 has given us endings to a ton of pop culture stuff that I think we need to have happen. I mean, even Endgame happening last year, which feels so long ago, that was a worthwhile
of Corona.
That was a worthwhile ending that paid off a lot of the things that we've been living with for a long time. And you guys recently talked about that on the Infinity Pod. And I think when it comes to talking about media, it's important to acknowledge those resolutions and those endings.
Yeah.
But
I think it's nice to see something like Raiders at the moment that it came out kind of existing in a vacuum, you know, like here's one adventure with this guy, he gets the girl, and like maybe we don't see him ever again. I'm glad that we do. Like that's very fun, but you know, like there's no introduction of some other character at the end of this being like, would you like to join Lara Croft and I don't know,
Nathan Drake,
Professor Caballeron from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic to go on an adventure. I don't know. Let's get a team together. It's nice. It's nice to go back and like touch those things that just do the thing for 2 hours and whatever and are done. And to sort of like bring all this back to me doing this movie night for my coworkers, I picked Raiders just because I knew it was a good film, and I knew it would be like one that can sort of translate and be shareable with coworkers I actually haven't met in the real world at this point. And I was so pleased. I was so pleased with my choice because people who had seen the movie were very excited to watch it. And one new person who hadn't seen it before said, I don't usually go for movies like this, but this one was great. You know, just like it's universal. I love it.
That's awesome.
You don't know until you try. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, of course.
You know, you don't know until you feel weird that you're at your like at an extracurricular activity for your job.
Work function.
Well, Rachel,
Yes.
Before we move on to bigger and grander things, or maybe not bigger and grander things, but as we move forward, why don't we get your 3-word review on Raiders of the Lost Ark? You cannot use the words Raiders, Lost, or Ark in your 3-word review.
Can I use Indiana Jones?
No, you can't use that either.
Yeah, see, you can't. You gotta say.
See,
the
but
full
you know,
thing.
I didn't have to give you all that info because you
I know.
knew.
I just wanted to hold you accountable while I try and think of 3 words to sum up this beautiful, glorious film
and
that
continue
I love.
and continue to stall because you're not sure what
I'm
those 3 words
stalling.
are.
Yeah. I can do this. I know I can.
I believe in you.
I have them. I'm just trying to like order the words appropriately in the best way.
It's all
Classic.
about this delivery.
Ooh, I got it. Classic status earned.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, because
Well
it
done.
is. It's.
Well
I
said.
I would
can't
concur
like.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those movies where it's like, yes, like you can feel the moments even now. However many years we are away from it, I don't do math. A million years, like
Yes.
a bunch
Raiders
of years.
Was 82.
81.
81.
But I don't do math.
So we're
It's fine.
We're almost up on 40.
Almost on 40, so nearly 40 years later, I can feel the moments where someone watching this movie for the first time in 1981 in the movie theater just being like, this one's a classic. Like you can feel those moments. You can see them. Like if you aren't hooked by the like the lighting of Indiana Jones's face for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like, I don't think anyone in an audience is going to look at that movie for the first time and go, oh, that doesn't matter. That's not important. Like it drips of its own like craft, you know? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I could go on forever about Raiders. But anyway, this isn't a podcast just about Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Dan Purcell, what is the last thing that you have watched?
Well, before I jump into that, I wanted to acknowledge. I only know that it's going to be 40 years since Raiders because today marks the day that it had been 40 years since the release of The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, dang.
Oh, wow.
Happy birthday.
To the best Star Wars movie ever made. Maybe only second to The Last Jedi.
Yeah. I'll believe it.
Is my
Happy birthday, Empire.
favorite.
You're finally
could be
old
third.
enough to creepily hit on girls. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what happens when you're a 40-year-old person. I apologize to anyone who is a beautiful 40 or more year old person who listens to this podcast. I think you're great. I'm the asshole. Don't worry about it. I did a bad job. Y'all are great. Anyway, Dan, save me. Please save me, Dan Purcell, as
I will.
as you are often wont to do on podcasts.
So some of the things that I have been watching recently, I'll give an honorable mention to I started my Avatar rewatch today.
Yes.
Excellent.
I'm very excited
So
because
good.
that was a show of my childhood
Yep.
that I
That's a
was
good one.
super into. I remember where I was. Oh. I remember where I was in like 2008 when they did the finale. I remember sitting there and watching all 4 parts in order and just being like,
Yeah.
this is it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about endings that are like, this is the one.
Yeah.
But the actual show that I have done recently that has been like the full rewatch has been actually Community, which is really funny, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it because
Of course.
I had
Thank
been
you.
I'd been really thinking about it because there was the read this week.
Yep.
Yes.
The week prior, them. So Joel McHale and Ken Jeong do a podcast
Yep.
about Community now.
Called The
I'm
Darkest
aware.
Called The
Timeline.
Darkest Timeline.
Yep.
And
Yep.
the audio quality on
And-
it is so bad.
So bad.
It
I
makes,
love them
it
so
makes
much.
Me feel every
It's
so
so
much better.
bad.
It drives me crazy. I couldn't listen to it because I'm
It
just
hurts
such an
me
audio
in my
nerd.
teeth.
But I'll listen to the episodes because it's nice to hear Ken talk as like a rational doctor as
Yes.
opposed to Ben Chang.
Yes.
But the week prior they had the entire cast on, and it was after the read, and they just were talking, they were shooting their shit, and they were
Yeah.
just like hanging out and having a good time all over Zoom.
Nice.
So that was really cool to watch. And then I just finished listening to that same podcast episode. They brought on just Danny Pudi to talk about like stuff specifically related to him and Abed and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So Community has been on the brain
Yeah.
as of late. I started this show in high school and then fell off when it first came out because I knew it was like, this is a show. It's a show that has Chevy Chase on it, so it must be at least somewhat funny.
Yeah.
I think that was my rationale for it.
Sure.
And I
As with
liked
many.
the first, yeah, and I liked the first couple episodes, and then I fell off because I was like, it started to those first few episodes. If you already don't know what's about to come with that show, you're kind of just like, oh, is it gonna be kind of like the same kind of like, oh, Jeff's a dick. Oh, here we go again, and But I was very happy to hear from one of my friends later on in high school. He was like, "You haven't been watching Community? You gotta get back on it because they've been like doing like epic paintball fights and like I don't know. They've just been doing all these different film homages." And I was like, "Really?" So I jumped back on I think like somewhere through like midway through season 3 or something like that. And so I started becoming more interested in it again. But I'd never done the full like watch straight all the way through.
Right.
So I decided to just do it with it being on Netflix. And wow,
Wow.
I think it might be my favorite show. That it's funny, like that and Avatar might be my two favorite shows.
They're both
As,
so
like,
good.
They are.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think
funny.
I resonate. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's funny. I think a lot of people did exactly what the three of us have done to some staggered degree, which is like fallen back in love with it due to recent things about the cast or the cast doing.
Yeah,
and
or
like-
just
Yeah.
availability to streaming, you know.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
I don't think I would have rewatched all of Community had it not been all there, including the Yahoo season.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And like,
yeah.
I dropped off the season that Dan left the series. When Dan left the series, I stopped watching partway through, and so I never saw the Yahoo season or the season after. And so, like, what I'm excited about with my rewatch is eventually I'll have seen all of it, which I haven't yet. But even like rewatching the first season, so much of it stays fresh in my mind. And I'm curious, Dan, do you feel that the
Yes.
first few episodes now are better knowing what you know about the rest of it? Because I felt that way. I felt like they were almost perfect.
So I actually think the first season is my favorite season. In terms of how the different seasons stack up, I just think there's a lot more. I think I appreciate the homages in the second and third and so on and so forth seasons, but in the first season, it really feels like they were intentional and really smart about their choices of what they wanted to do with the different kinds of homages in that season. And then also I think it just felt a lot more grounded, and it wasn't like the characters were trying to were like, oh, we're going to go on a fun little Greendale adventure. Like the reason why I stayed was because of the character drama between the people, as opposed to coming back every time for a fun romp, you know. Like I came back for the relationships between, like the random pairings that you would sometimes see between like Shirley and Abed, or Shirley, Britta and Annie, or something like that, and all those kinds of things. Which is funny. The Shirley and Abed episode where Abed makes a religious movie is really interesting, and they're doing
That's
all
season
these
2,
sorts
though.
of things. Yes, but I thought that was fast. I thought that one was fascinating. It reminded me a lot of season 1 in that sense. I think season 1 is the strongest for me because it still focused a lot more on the relationships. It didn't feel like it needed to like keep swinging for the fences with all of its adaptations and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I still can't knock all the great episodes from the seasons afterwards. I mean,
Sure.
There's so many, like, you don't need to necessarily know the names of the episodes, but you'll know when you say like, when you say the, what's a random one? The My Dinner with Andre episode.
Yeah.
So nuts.
Where I don't know, has anybody, have you, either of you seen My Dinner with Andre?
I've
No.
not.
Okay, because I have not either. And I'm like, I'm very interested in checking out My Dinner with Andre because I want to see how faithful they were to the in adaptation. But at
Yeah.
the same time, I also kind of don't, because I don't want to ruin the greatness of that episode because of the exact character dynamics that I love
Yeah.
just watching unfold.
And also, it kind of runs into that similar problem with. I watched Scaredy Cats on YouTube, and there's a really great point that Matt on Scaredy Cats makes about watching horror and sort of like diminishing returns. Like, you know, now that we've sort of like cracked this like community watch version of My Dinner with Andre, how will it be diminished when we go back and we watch the original piece that is being the centerpiece of this homage? You know, like, will it be
Right.
weird for us to watch My Dinner with Andre and all the time think like, oh, like when Abed did with Jeff in the restaurant? You know, it's kind of
Yeah.
the same problem that you get when you run into horror, which was the thesis of Matt's piece, where maybe you watch something that's paying tribute to Texas Chainsaw Massacre before you actually watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it might diminish the spark of that film for you. Yeah, I think with that particular episode, like, I don't think I'll ever watch My Dinner with Andre because I now think that it has been so mired in pop culture and this weird reference that I don't think I will be able to appreciate it in the right way. But luckily, I did see a lot of spaghetti westerns before I watched Community, so I the paintball, a few paintballs more, just like really like got into my heart.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that I am going to be of a different mind from you, Dan, and say I think when they get into the more conceptual, like, gonzo episodes is when, like, I think I latch on. But I think I completely agree with you that, like, season 1 is very, very important because if you're just watching these, like, almost character archetypes behave in this weird, wacky scenario, it doesn't ground you in the right way. Like, you need season 1 to, like, make you love these characters, so that way when you start sort of like playing with them in this world and sort of let the world get a little wacky, you're still at a touchstone of like, yes, Annie is always organized and wants to succeed. Troy doesn't understand Inception, and that is the most perfect thing about that perfect person. You know, and you just like, sometimes I think it really, the almost like it's a television show that is a tabletop RPG where
And
there are
to
people like playing these character sheets.
Yeah, that speaks a lot to, I think, Dan Harmon's really deep Dungeons and Dragons sort of way of telling stories.
Yeah.
Where he kind of just he sets up these. I mean, like, you see it now. Like, one of my favorite recent episodes of anything in recent memory was the Story Train episode of Rick and Morty, where he just
Phenomenal.
breaks story convention altogether, and your brain is broken because he takes the concept of two people doing a thing, which is the essence of a story. Two people or more go out and they do a thing and they learn a lesson.
Yeah.
And he just takes that and he just breaks it in 2, and then breaks it in 4, and then breaks it in 8. And that's what he's done in every single like huge thing that he's ever done, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
when
great.
Matt Pat did an episode of Film Theory about the Story Train, and what's interesting is that, and I didn't know this, but Dan Harmon has shown his story. Like, the Story Train is his way of writing. He creates an 8-point chart and creates a story that way. So for you as a writer to go back and break your own cycle, but also acknowledge it and then still fix it again, is just so wacky. And I think why Rick and Morty and Community and everything that Dan Harmon has worked on has had this meta appreciation on one level or another is because he doesn't see storytelling or stories or story conventions the same way the rest of us do. And so he can hit something from an outside view and then pull you back in. I just rewatched the chicken nugget episode yesterday and the paintball episode today in the first season. And like,
oh boy.
And like the chicken nugget episode, first of all, the chicken tenders, not chicken nuggets, but that's besides the point.
Doesn't matter. Also, it especially doesn't matter because the fools got real weird about it.
Yeah.
In our world, and I will not honor them by giving deference to whether or not it's chicken nuggets or chicken fingers.
Well, yeah,
because y'all did a bad job, and you broke the ARG of our world.
But more importantly, with the Community episode about the chicken fingers, tenders, whatever, is that he takes something benign and turns it into a mafia movie, right? And then follows all the conventions in a mafia movie, but still fitting them into the Greendale College experience. But they all still make sense. And even the wackiest of moments, like the introduction of Annie's boobs or the entourage or any of these other things that they have, they
to
also
clarify for people who have seen Community or who haven't seen Community, Annie's boobs is a monkey.
Yes,
Annie's
the
boobs is a
name
monkey.
of
Not just any monkey, Crystal the monkey, who
Crystal
has
the
a
monkey.
beautiful career.
Yes.
Yes.
Just like one of the best in the business. Full deference to
Yes.
Crystal the monkey.
Shout out Crystal the monkey.
Yeah,
Shout out Crystal the monkey.
I think a tufted capuchin.
I don't know.
I think
I
is
have no
Crystal's
idea.
breed.
So
I'm just
I
trying to
played
look
with you.
smart for our guest. It's
I
fine,
appreciate
don't worry
you.
about it.
But like that episode, no matter how wacky it gets, it never breaks the conventions that Dan has built in that show. And so you never go, this couldn't have happened. And even Rick and Morty, a show that is almost a science free-for-all, still has rules. And even when he was in the Story Train episode breaking all of those rules, he wasn't breaking the rules because he was acknowledging that he was breaking the rules. And that's the kind of brilliant writing that Dan does that I think keeps folks like us coming back to Community as a show, is because he knows how to play in his realm better than any of us.
Yeah, which I think is a true testament to what went wrong in season 4.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's the notion that like he understands that the large conceptual things are important and like he loves doing those things, but at the heart of what he does in terms of how he tells stories, it's people at the end of the day that drive the stories and give meaning to the stories that are told and told over and over again.
Yeah.
it's true.
And that's why we keep coming back to. That's why when Donald Glover leaves the show in season 5, that is earned. The way in which it is earned is like it is. You get these great hard earned feelings and emotions of like, no, yeah, this makes sense. This not only makes sense logically for the character, but it's just like I don't know. You feel it's not just like writing somebody off the show. It's like you feel it's like a person in your life has left.
Yeah.
And that's
Absolutely.
that's what kind of like drives the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think that really builds into the great characters that have been created by Harmon and the team and the cast. Like that you can get, Buzz Hickey into the mix, and like he's a different energy than Pierce or Troy, and that's fine. And like
Yeah.
you get to just
Yeah.
sort of live in this world where like, yeah, it's kind of different now, but like we're all still the same, and we have room in our heart for Buzz or for Paget Brewster's character whose name escapes me, or Keith David's character. In the Yahoo season, like was really nervous reapproaching this piece, because full disclosure, I was ride or die for Community. I watched every episode when they came out. I found a way to watch the Yahoo season. I suffered through season 4 week after week and was so excited for season 5 when Dan Harmon came back. Like I did this. I suffered and I learned and I experienced all of this in literal real time. So I think coming back to it, I was like, was season 4 as bad as I thought it was? Because I remember thinking season 4 was really bad. And it's because it's season 4 to me is, and not to like hijack this too much, season 4 is the season where writers are telling a story that they watched Dan Harmon write. In the same way that like we all will sit here and like maybe talk about like the chicken nugget episode or a fistful of paintballs or the My Dinner with Andre episode, and like we are simply like relaying the shell of the story. And I think that's what season 4 is doing, where they're like, no, we get it, like. And you can see it all the time. Like, I will challenge anyone who watches season 4, like having watched the seasons leading up to it, to play a drinking game. Like, drink whatever you want, alcoholic beverage or not. But anytime any of the characters explain the crux of the situation or the other characters, when they are being expository, drink. Because you will be either so hydrated or so drunk, depending on what you're drinking. Because they do it all the time. Like, I got so distracted from the number of times that Annie explained Jeff's whole shit. Like, it was crazy. It was like I was on some kind of drug. It was nuts. But yeah.
That said, I would like to try and be the deft hand in this situation. And, instead of trying to be like the season 4 writers where they will just try and like explain things away.
Yes.
Or be expository about it. I would like to try and loosely give you a pitch for what a movie could be. Because the subject matter of a movie came up in the conversation.
It did.
Yes.
The Q&A.
In the live Q&A.
I remember.
And the guy who was hosting the Q&A was like, "Oh yeah, could we see a Community movie where Abed goes off to save Troy?" And it's one of those media tossing a bone to the actors kind of questions where it's kind of like, we don't know if a movie's gonna happen, but if it did, whoa, what would it be? And Danny tries to answer it somewhat earnestly, and I thought about it, and it gave me a lot of like pause to be like, I don't think in every instance in where Community's gone outside Greendale Community College, the concept doesn't work.
Right.
If that makes sense. The concept of community, in the sense that is based around the community college and the people that come and go throughout the time there. So to me, it's like, just as much as maybe the main cast needs to be there, I think Greendale still needs to be one of the main. It needs to be a huge facet of the movie, because you can't have Community without Greendale Community College.
Exactly.
That said, how would this start? What would end up happening? Well, in season 6, at the end, Abed and Annie leave.
Yes.
And that ends the show. And it's just Jeff, Paget Brewster, Britta, and the Dean, I believe. I think it's just those guys.
Chang's also still there.
And Ken Jeong. Ken Chang.
Yeah.
So they're all there.
Because Keith David also leaves.
Yes, he does also leave. And I got this sense of, everybody's just gonna leave Jeff, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Jeff's just gonna have to get used to it. And I thought to myself, where would that put him? Because I'm thinking of in the context of, if we're talking about 2015, it's been 5 years later, and I'm trying to pitch this, or if it's like 6 or 7, if it ends up being like, it's gonna get made.
Yeah.
Where would that leave Jeff? So I came up with this scenario of the idea of Jeff really doesn't know who he's become so lost because he's found himself in Greendale Community College and the people that he's been around, that he sort of lost himself in the sauce of what he thinks makes Greendale so great. So he ends up becoming the dean after the dean leaves. I'm going to say Dean Pelton leaves. Everybody else leaves. Everybody else leaves to go off and do their own thing. And it just leaves Jeff. And Jeff is all alone at Greendale Community College. And he is desperately trying to reimagine the study group over and over again each year by trying to bring in new players and just watching them work together. So he's trying to do the thing that everybody else tries to do in these instances, and where they try to do fan fiction like, Troy should still be lost to sea and Abed should go and save him and whatnot and all that kind of stuff. But the whole arc of the movie, that's where we start. That's our starting point.
Yes.
And the whole crux of the movie is Abed is now a director in Hollywood, and he's done well for himself. And he realizes that it's like gonna be 10 years since they've all graduated. And so he hits everybody up and says, let's come back together at Greendale for a 10th anniversary reunion. And he's like, but he's kind of wary when he does this. He knows that reunions are great and they feel great in theory.
Yes.
But sometimes when they happen,
and obviously Abed would reference any sort of like reunion, like
big reunion.
Fuller House or
TV reunion, yeah.
Yeah.
In theory, all those kinds of reunions are like, they could get back together and then the magic could be back. They could bring back like what it was. But there's this just lingering thing in the back of his head, like as soon as he reconnects with Troy, who has gone off and become his own man and done his own thing and has founded that social media site that Abed says that he's going to found at some point in season 3 because it's gotta happen. It's gotta happen that way. As soon as he meets him, he's gonna realize that Troy's a completely different person than the person that had left him on that boat. And it's going to shock him, and he knows it's going to shock him, and he's worried about it. But he still goes anyway, and they all come back together, and through some sort of chain of events, some sort of crazy thing happens at Greendale that causes them to be stuck inside the school or something like that, or something that involves the school particularly, that requires them to stay at the school. I haven't figured it out yet. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to come to the realization that both Abed and Jeff come to the same sort of lesson eventually, like through the trials and tribulations they have in the movie. And it's that, we could relive and sort of put a great deal of value on a nostalgic thing all we want.
Yeah.
Just like how all fans do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if we're not taking the lessons that we've learned from that thing that we love and the love that we have for it and giving it to other people and going out and doing that, then we're really doing a disservice to ourselves and the thing that we really fell in love with in the first place. The idea of taking the concept of the community that we built together and going out and building new communities that we can all bring back and are like, this is something that we can all be proud of. All of us, all the new people that are involved in people's lives. And Jeff comes to realize like, he doesn't necessarily need to be at Greendale to be the good person that he's learned how to be. So
Yeah.
he moves on. Abed realizes that things don't need to be exactly the way that they need to be. Troy's friendship with him will change, but the fact that he's changed and Troy's changed should be an incredibly wonderful thing that they should learn to, and they should learn to learn from each other as they've grown.
Yeah.
And I think those are just some of the particular plot threads that jumped out in my mind, because my theory behind the whole thing is that the two focal points of Community, in terms of main characters, the main protagonists are Abed and Jeff.
Agreed.
And all the other characters sort of bounce off of them and sort of interact with each other in all different ways. So it's the fact that Abed and Jeff are the main characters of the whole thing, and they're learning the lessons while everybody else is, and learning the lessons in their own way, that results in them having like a deeper sense of finality than they did when they were trying to pitch season 7 at the end of season 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, and having just watched having just watched the pilot, like the first two characters you see are Jeff and Abed, so that would be very circular to end with Jeff and Abed. I think that's a great pitch. I love it. I think Dan Harmon would be a fool not to use it if he ever uses it.
I also think if a creator creates the extensions of themselves in their works, like I would say that probably Jeff Winger is Dan Harmon's heart and Abed is Dan Harmon's mind. Like
yeah.
And I think that is why they definitely are the focal point protagonists, and we spend a lot of time learning the lessons of the show through their experiences.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's like letting Troy go by pretending they're clones, or Jeff realizing that he does have a heart and he does care about these people. You know, I think they're both reflections of the author, for sure. I think this show is so good, though. I love it.
And I think that we now no longer need to do a Community episode because we just did it now. And run longer.
I don't know. I bet we could do one when you get through the Yahoo season, because I would love to hear your thoughts on not just on like the Yahoo season, but like how they like navigate it. Yeah. Also season 4, the gas leak year. I could spend hours talking about the gas leak year. And then like the response to the gas leak year, because I always appreciate that they don't just like completely negate the gas leak year. They kind of like honor it and sort of make it a gift, you know, like we can go back and be like, oh, the gas leak year, for sure.
Right.
Totally. Right. But all that said, we are not a Community podcast, though we may do a special at some point that maybe we clearly have to bring Dan back for when we do it, because it sounds like he'd be a good fit. But that said, Dan, it's now time to nut up or shut up. You've got to summarize the entire experience of Community using only 3 words, and you cannot use the word community anywhere in your 3-word review. So what have you got for us?
Okay, here we go. And a movie.
And a movie. Perfect.
God, that's so meta. So good. That's good. You got me. You got me.
Amazing.
That's good. Perfect. Well, thank you, Dan. That was awesome.
Thank you, Dan. Boy.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys indulging my pitch.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
Of course.
This
is a Screen Snark first. No one has come on to like pitch a full thing to us, so that was very exciting.
That was very fun.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We've run longer on this episode than we've run in a while, but I don't want to let you go before we talk a little bit about you, Dan, and the stuff you work on. Clearly, you are a lover of pop culture, and you are also a musician. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about Serendipity a little bit. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about Serendipity?
Yeah. So over the last I want to say a year or so, I've been starting to write music. It started back in 2016 when I co-wrote something with a friend. I sort of caught the songwriting bug, and so I just started writing and writing and writing, coming up with ideas, very rough ideas, very loose ideas. But it wasn't until last year where sort of things started to calcify a little bit more, and I started to write like full stories and like be able to tell full songs and sing full songs in things and be not only happy with how they turned out, but just like proud of how they turned out. Like this is a thing, like this is a cool thing that I made. I'm glad about it. You know, I have never been able to do that with songwriting before, because I come from the film world. I was a film student. I work in visual effects post production, and it was a very different world for me, even though I had been steeped in singing and a cappella music and all that kind of stuff for the longest time. So the fact that things were starting to come together songwriting wise was really exciting for me. So the story of how this song was made was around Valentine's Day. The idea came into my head because I was listening to a podcast talking about creating serendipity in your own life, because you could say that serendipity is like a happy instance of luck,
Right.
but also I think it's the idea of serendipity lends to the notion of we get the same kind of energy that we put out into the world.
Yes.
So if you focus on a thing and you focus really hard on working on that thing and building that thing, you're eventually going to get to where you want to go in life just by having the passion and the persistence to do that thing. So I thought to myself, that would be a really cool idea for a song. So what if you framed that concept around the idea of a relationship? And it's basically the perspective of this person who realizes that they're really, at least in terms of my personal experiences with relationships and friendships, I can be very introverted and very closed off. I really enjoy being alone, and it sort of helps me reset. So I really just started to focus on that. I was like, what if I figured out a way to work on myself in such a way that I can be open from the start in my relationships and in life, and find the people that I'm really supposed to be connected with, my people, my tribe, you know? And that's really how you got to do it in order to not only, in order to meet the people that you're supposed to meet in your life, but also just to strengthen the bonds between the people that are already in your life, and make those relationships deeper and stronger. So that's the sort of pitch around that song. So I wrote it, produced most of it, sent it off to a friend of mine who's based in Brooklyn. He's a producer named Mark Farnham. He mixed the track, sent it back to me. And then another friend of mine, his name is Hansel Romero. He did some extra drum production on it and swapped out some of the drums that I had picked because he had just had better drums. And yeah, so this is the first song that's going to be coming out from an EP project that I have been working on. Funny enough, it's the last song in the EP. The EP tells the whole story overall, piece by piece, about sort of my relationship with time over the last few years, about like coming to grips with growing up, living in this weird new world of this kind of like communication between on the internet and algorithmic life, you know.
Yes.
All that kind of stuff. It talks about that, and it's going to be coming out hopefully in the next couple of months. The way that I'm going to release it like miniseries television, where each week you're going to get a new installment, new episode in the season, if you will. So this
Very
is season
cool.
1, if you will.
Very
And
like
so then
modern pop music, I will say. Like that's kind of a lot of delivery system. So
yeah. So that's kind of like that's where I'm at with my music right now. So
That's awesome.
It's I'm excited about it. I'm excited to have this finally exist for people to listen to.
Does the EP have a name yet?
Yes, it is unfortunately not the cross section of Dan Purcell.
Oh, well,
it's okay.
okay.
That's
for the next
for your
one.
full length like studio album, you know, like when we're outside
Yeah.
of this and like we're really getting into like, you know, like your process, and like you've had a chance to really like find the
Yes.
unified theory of you.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then we get a cross section of that unified theory. It's fine. I've already planned all this out. It's fanfic. Don't worry about it, Dan.
Hey, I pitched the Community movie. You pitched me on the album. It's a vice versa kind of thing. The EP is called Day by Day, and
awesome.
Appropriately called Day by Day because the conclusion that I reach at the end of the EP is that the only way to sort of like go through the motions and figure out how to grow up and how to do all these things is take life day by day.
It's true.
That's awesome.
Valid advice.
That's a perfect. I think that's a perfect way to wrap up this stellar episode.
Wait.
Oh, wait a minute.
No.
Wait.
No.
There's one thing
we have to do. An important discussion that needs to be had.
This will be a good one.
I promise this will be a good one. I have refused to let Dan tell me this because I was waiting for for this. So for those of you who may not follow everything that I do as a podcaster, I have another show called the Infinity Podcast, and I fancy myself a bit of a stinger writer.
Oh, that's right. Okay, now
I
remember the
shit.
story. Yeah.
Yep. And I wrote a really dumb stinger for a segment on that show called "This Is Not a News" that I played on melodica, and it's utter trash. It's utter trash, and I've never been so proud. And the reason that I know Dan Purcell now is because he took my piece and he turned it into this absolute like jock jams banger bop that just means the world to me. And I have to know how did this brilliant thing that was born out of just me being trash come to existence? Like how like I need to know how Dan Purcell turned like this like metal into gold. I need to understand this alchemy.
Okay. So, one of my favorite things that I love to do is it would essentially be the musical equivalent of a yes and, in improv.
I appreciate it.
I'll take an idea and I'll roll with it and I'll expand upon it and see. That's one of my favorite things that I love doing.
Yeah.
So, I had to bring up the email because I wanted to know exactly when this happened. So, it happened in January of last year.
Yes.
Yes.
You had done, I think maybe like 1 or 2 episodes of the show with the This Is Not a News theme song. And it was on the second time around where you, Patrick and Scott put out a call of like, if there's anybody who wants to like remake this, go ahead and go and do it.
Yeah.
Now,
one of our calls to action.
Yes.
Jesus.
Every morning I would listen to every Monday morning I would listen to the podcast on my commute in from work. I'm from Jersey. I commute into the city. And I used to take the train into work. And so I would get in really early at work because of this. So I would listen to the podcast. I would sort of be done, sort of get ready for my day. This day, however, as soon as I walked out, I had my coffee in hand. I was just listening, and I heard the call to action. I knew that somebody had to move as fast as they possibly could to get this thing realized for these people. Yes. Because, I was just starting to experiment with music production. I was starting to figure out how to make these things. So why not figure out how to do it while also servicing somebody else at the same time? So on my phone, there is an application called Oxy. It's spelled Ox, like aux cable with a Y. It's essentially a sequencer, like a beat and melody sequencer, where you can it's visual. You can like punch in specific like patterns, and it'll play back the pattern, and it'll be a song. And so what I did was, I sat there for maybe the first hour and a half of me sitting at work waiting for people to come in, and made the song on my phone.
I can't believe it.
So I'm just sitting there oh, yep, that sounds good. And I knew I was like, I know that they are like, this is so ridiculous. It's a ridiculous podcast within a podcast. So I knew I had to make the song as ridiculous as possible. I was like, it needs to be like this, like you need to hear like the basses are wubby, but they're wubby in like an papa kind of way.
Yes.
There, and I was like, there needs to be like this high pitched synth doing the melody that the melodica is doing, and
Yep.
it needs to just like it needs to be like one of those club bangers that like you could hear it in the club if you needed to, if you wanted to play it, but it would serve a great theme song. So I made it on my phone, and at 9:30 in the morning, I send the Infinity Pod an email with the song on it, and the email came back as like, "Oh, we're gonna use this in every single episode afterwards."
Yes.
Guaranteed.
I can remember where I was when this happened, because like Scott Patrick and I were just like, what the fuck, man? This is
Yes.
like you created something that made us feel like we were unreal. You know, like one of those moments of like, is this a simulation where like this is all fake, and
Yes.
like you're getting your little like nutrient pellet in your fake world where you're like, I'll stay alive. Like it was like I can't believe it. Like I think I listened to that like so many times, and I was just like so proud that I contributed like the notes, but also so embarrassed to know that like this really cool like club jock jam came from me like shittily like blowing my dumb air into a melodica.
Yo, that's all what music is all about. It's all
It's
about
true.
moving air.
And I, as a listener of the podcast that was not involved in the transaction of this, the first time I heard it, I was just blown away. I was like, this
It's
is
so good.
phenomenal.
Yeah, we like the Infinity Podcast does not deserve this, and I'm so glad we got it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm so
and-
glad I just had the
I'm
opportunity.
so-
Like I saw the opportunity. I was like, I gotta do this.
And thank you,
Can't. That's
Dan, for sharing that
perfect,
story
Dan.
on
Thank
our
you.
incredible podcast as well.
Yeah. Thank you for
course,
adding
of
to
course.
the synergy of my personal brand. Thank
Exactly.
you.
The cross promo, it just grows. It just grows.
Anyway,
Yes.
so before we get to our final question that we will ask you, Dan, we do have some folks that we need to thank.
We do.
Cool.
I did. I transitioned us into it, and now I feel weird
Smooth.
because usually I go, "Yes, we do, Matt." Anyway, yes, we do. Me. Thank you so much to John Presnell for the use of the song "Aurora" off the album "Fair Game" featuring Stefan Remble.
Also, thank you to the incredible Katie Bug, who designed our awesome logo that we use for the show.
Yes, and thank you to the Certain Point of View Podcast Network for continuing to allow us to be part of your family, for all that you do to support fellow podcasters. I don't know if you have been following along with the journey of Certain POV, but we've added some new shows. We've got the Dole Whip and Dreams podcast. We've got Circle of Friendship, which is about a book series, and I don't remember the book series because I'm not great. But if you like
Circle
books
of
and
Magic?
reading, Thank you, Circle of Magic. So if you like reading, unlike me, go check out that for sure.
We've also added
if
Let's
I
Rewind.
if I may,
go
if I
ahead.
may have a thanks.
Yeah,
If I may put in a thanks.
of course.
I'm gonna pull a Rachel on the podcast. Thank you to my mother for giving birth to me.
Excellent.
Aw,
Good.
excellent.
Aw.
And thank you, awesome listeners, for listening. But before we
Yeah.
totally wrap up the show, Rachel, ask our guest our final question.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Okay.
So, Dan, in the long storied history of creating pieces for film and television, we have concocted a shorthand, a way of signaling to the audience that we're all in this together. We all know what the fuck is up. And those pieces of quick translation have elevated themselves into a trope. A beautiful trope or a terrible
Indeed.
trope. It depends on where
Yes.
you look at it. Dan,
Yes.
if you had to choose one trope from movies or television to instantly and magically be true in your life, what trope would you choose?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's
That's
surprise.
a really good question. Oh man.
It's like an hour of preamble
Wow.
just leading to this one very good question.
Pretty much.
I know it's
our whole
and it's the most
podcast.
important question.
It really is.
I feel like I'm gonna take the third person here. Like I'm gonna jump out of my body because I want to watch this happen. I want to watch the montage of me making this last EP, like in the same way that you would do a Rocky training montage.
Ooh, very
Yeah.
cool.
Like I would want to watch that. I just would want to see what that was like. So I want to do that. I would want to do that for every time I like make music or make something with other people and just see like the montage of it happening.
Very
not-
like musical biopic.
Yes.
Yes.
Like not
Like
just
in-
having the montage, but also watching it yourself, like being able
Yeah.
to step
Yes.
out of it.
As a viewer and a film lover, I would want to just watch that happen.
Yeah. That'd be great to watch for sure. Just like, ooh, I'm for it.
Awesome.
I can't wait to hear your single Serendipity.
Me
So
too.
that if it is appropriate, I can lay it over the montage of you making this EP. Dan, thank you
Yes.
so much for joining us. Do you have anything to plug?
The song Serendipity.
Serendipity, check it out. It's gonna be all over,
so,
I imagine.
At the time of this recording, it's Thursday, so it'll be 1 week from the 21st, which is May 28th. That
May
is when the song Serendipity will be out.
Cool.
And if you would like to hear my musings on all different sorts of things, whether it's pitching a community movie or talking about why the Netflix presentation of Avatar is in the weird, wacky broadcast 4:3 and not the upconverted Blu-ray version, you can find me at the Dan Purcell. That's the Dan Purcell on Twitter
Yeah.
and Instagram.
Please follow Dan on
Please do.
social media. It's a delight for sure. Yeah,
Thank you.
that's
Thank you.
it.
Thank you so much, Dan, again, for being on the show.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for having me.
Our pleasure. Thank
We
you
did
to
it.
our incredible listeners. You made it to
Yeah.
another episode with us. Thank you for your support. The show would
Mm-hmm.
not be anything like it is without your support. Thank you for continuing to listen, sharing,
Yeah.
liking, and subscribing. The
Yes,
whole nine
do those
yards.
things. Rate,
And- Keep
doing it.
review, subscribe, tell your friends, or tell your enemies if you hate the show. I don't care. Just tell
Yeah.
people that
Just
this
tell
exists.
people.
Tell neutral strangers.
Yeah, if
Exactly.
you get delivery food, tell them through the door as they drop off your delicious dishes.
Do
Be like, go listen to Screen Snark. Or don't do that, actually. Don't put that on someone. They're just trying to make money. They deserve hazard pay. That was a joke. And then I felt bad about it because our essential workers have gone through enough and they don't need to be punished with us. Anyway, thank you so much all the time to Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon, my incomparable co-host.
Thank you. And thank you to the lovely, talented, and towering Rachel Quirky-Shank, my incredible co-host.
Yes. I'm very tall.
So tall. And
So tall.
again, one more time, thank you to our guest and our listeners. We couldn't do this show without either of you because we have guests on every episode and we need listeners to make episodes. I mean, I guess you don't. But anyway, enough of that. Thank you as always. We will see you at the movies or on a couch somewhere.
Yeah, with a mask on at 6 feet distance because I just realized us just being on your couch is fucking weird.
We're on a virtual couch together at the same time.
Wash your hands.
Bye.
Aurora, 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 Aurora. Metal to magnet, she will be mine. Aurora.
Can you believe we've been friends for 7 years? And it all started because I compared you to Alana the lioness.
Tamara Pierce really set the tone of our friendship.
A love of magic,
Briar Moss,
Fantasy.
Briar Moss,
powerful women, and of course,
Briar Moss. I'm Anna.
And I'm MJ.
And we invite you to join our Circle of Friendship,
where we do a chapter-by-chapter deep dive into the Circle of Magic series by Tamara Pierce.
We answer important questions like, how does Moonstream let certain dedicates take care of children?
Can you imagine anyone else but Mandy Patinkin playing Nico?
Knives, Briar?
And
knives?
Join us every other Monday at cofpodcast.libsyn.com or wherever you download podcasts.
But seriously, knives?
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.